The year is 1972. June 17th. 2:30 in the morning. Frank Wills, 24 years old, security guard at the Watergate Office Building. He spots a strip of grey duct tape wedged into a lock. A lock on the Democratic National Committee's headquarters. He calls the police. In under an hour, 5 men are in cuffs. They carry surgical gloves, wiretapping gear, more than $4,000 in cash. All sequential $100 bills. One of them is no ordinary burglar. James McCord, former CIA operative, head of security for Richard Nixon's re-election committee. June 1972. Richard Nixon has served as U.S. President since 1968. He is now running for a second term. His opponent, Democrat George McGovern. 1 year earlier, Daniel Ellsberg leaked the Pentagon Papers. That leak shattered public trust in the Vietnam War. It also unleashed unprecedented paranoia inside the White House. Nixon responded by ordering the creation of a secret team. The Plumbers. Their official mission: plug media leaks that threatened his administration. Their real mission: spy on political opponents. On the campaign side, the committee to re-elect the president. The press dubbed it the Creep, a nickname that stuck. It was run by John Mitchell. Mitchell was a former U.S. Attorney General, one of Nixon's closest confidants. In January 1972, Creep hired James W. McCord Jr. as its head of security. The June 17, 1972 arrest report from the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia confirms McCord's background. He served 20 years in U.S. intelligence, with stints at both the Central Intelligence Agency and the Federal Bureau of Investigation. The other 4 burglars were anti-Castro Cuban exiles. All had direct ties to old CIA clandestine operations targeting Fidel Castro's regime. Within days of the Watergate arrests, the White House and Creep launched a coordinated, systematic denial campaign. June 22, 1972. President Nixon holds an official press conference. The official White House transcript records his exact words. Unambiguous. The White House had no involvement in this incident whatsoever. He goes further. He claims his White House counsel, John Dean, had conducted a complete internal investigation. That investigation, Nixon insists, found no connection whatsoever between his administration and the Watergate burglars. June 30, 1972. John Mitchell, Creep's director, former U.S. Attorney General, releases an official press statement. He declares Creep has no knowledge of the DNC break-in. He makes a second claim. The funds linked to the Watergate operation were used solely for presidential campaign security. President Nixon made a claim on June 22, 1972, that the White House had no involvement in the Watergate break-in. It was the first major crack in the official story. A White House tape blows that claim apart. It's Conversation 32-37. Recorded just 1 day after Nixon's press conference, June 23, 1972. Declassified in 1996. Nixon personally gives an order to his White House Chief of Staff, H.R. Haldeman. Pressure the CIA. The explicit instruction: get the CIA to shut down the FBI's ongoing investigation into Creep's secret funds. The excuse Nixon demands? National security. John Mitchell made 2 claims on June 30, 1972. They formed the second crack in the official story. First, Creep had no knowledge of the DNC break-in. Second, the funds tied to the operation were for legitimate campaign security. But bank records tell a completely different story. Records reviewed by the Senate Irving Committee in 1973 The sequential $100 bills found in the burglars' pockets trace directly to a dedicated creep bank account. That account was funded by an illegal $25,000 cash contribution from financier Kenneth Dahlberg. He deposited that money on April 3, 1972. There was one final, explosive detail no one in the White House or creep wanted to confront: James McCord's personal address book. It was seized by Washington, D.C. police on the exact day of the Watergate arrests. The June 17, 1972 arrest report from the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia confirms a critical detail. Seized from James McCord, his personal address book. It lists one name, E. Howard Hunt. Hunt was a former CIA operative, hired as a White House consultant under the alias Eduardo. That same day, the Metropolitan Police Department filed a seizure report. It's now archived with the Watergate Special Prosecution Force records at the U.S. National Archives. The report itemizes every piece of evidence taken from the burglars: 3 hidden microphones, 2 35mm cameras, 1 wiretap detector, $4,586 in cash. Every bill was a $100 note. They were in unbroken sequential order. The 1972 internal audit of the Committee to Re-elect the President traces those exact $100 bills to a dedicated CRP bank account. The audit is cited in the final report of the Senate Irving Committee. S. Representative Number 93 to 981, 1974. That account was funded by a $25,000 check from financier Kenneth Dahlberg. Deposited April 3, 1972. The contribution was never reported to the Federal Election Commission. It was illegal. Témoignage, March 23, 1973. James McCord submits a sworn letter to Judge John Sirica. Sirica reads the letter aloud in open court. The official court transcript preserves McCord's testimony under oath. First, he was pressured to remain silent about who ordered the DNC break-in. Second, perjury was committed during the U.S. v. Lydia et al. Trial in January 1973. The decisive break in the case did not come from a journalist. It did not come from a cooperating witness. It came from a secret recording system Richard Nixon himself ordered installed in the Oval Office. White House Conversation 32-37 captures Nixon's own words. Recorded June 23, 1972. Declassified in 1996. Just 6 days after the Watergate arrests, Nixon personally gives an order to his Chief of Staff, H.R. Haldeman. Shut down the FBI's investigation. Nixon's explicit instruction: tell the CIA director to order the FBI director to stop pushing this investigation any further. Use national security as the excuse. That is obstruction of justice. Captured on tape. It directly contradicts Nixon's public claim, made June 22, 1972. That the White House had no involvement whatsoever. July 24, 1974. The U.S. Supreme Court issues a landmark ruling in United States v. Nixon for 18 U.S. 683. The court rejects Nixon's argument of absolute executive privilege. It orders Nixon to turn over all Oval Office tape recordings to Special Prosecutor Leon Jaworski. August 5, 1974. Nixon releases the full, unredacted transcript of Conversation 32-37. The press dubs it the smoking gun. Nixon's cover-up is irrefutable. Today, Watergate remains a defining legal and political precedent for American democracy. It established 3 non-negotiable rules that shape how the U.S. government operates to this day. First, the president is not above the law. Second, executive privilege is not absolute. Third, congressional committees have unlimited power to investigate the executive branch. Recent high-stakes political fights echo Watergate's exact patterns of concealment and accountability. The investigations into 2016 and 2020 election interference. The repeated invocations of executive privilege by former President Donald Trump. Every one of these cases references the mechanisms of cover-up first exposed by Watergate. For the Watergate conspirators, the outcomes varied sharply. Nixon received a full, unconditional pardon from his successor, Gerald Ford. In 1974, H.R. Haldeman, John Mitchell, G. Gordon Liddy, and E. Howard Hunt were all convicted of felonies. They served prison sentences. Frank Wills never received official recognition for his role in uncovering the scandal. He was the 24-year-old security guard who first spotted the strip of duct tape. He died in obscurity. In 2000, Watergate did not begin with a grand, elaborate conspiracy. It began with a single strip of gray duct tape. A 24-year-old security guard, paying attention. An irrefutable, paper trail evidence that no one could bury. This scandal exposed exactly what happens when a president believes he is above the rules. It exposed something else. What happens when America's institutions work as designed to hold that president accountable? One question hangs over American democracy today. Who will enforce executive branch transparency when the very archives that prove wrongdoing are under threat? Subscribe to The Truth They Hide. Don't miss the next episode.